So in the last video, we saw that how to write a simple program in Eclipse and how do you execute that, right? So let's continue from there. Okay. So now, if you see these two classes, right, they are lying under default package, right? So in order to arrange our Java files in a proper structured way, we go for packages basically, right? Something called as packages in Java, right? So how do you create those packages in a Java project, right? So if you see, if I right click on a source, right? So there's something that is new package, right? So it's just a name basically, right? Ideally, if we follow all coding standards, so then package name should be in small letters, right? So let me say here basics like this, right? And just say finish, right? Now let's say, so what are these two programs I was having? I would prefer to have them created in a specific package so that if somebody is opening this project tomorrow and if he goes through your programs, he can very well identify, okay, there are some programs in basic package, there are some programs in some advanced package, there are some programs. So package is just a folder, it's just a folder with some name. There's no mandate on giving name to a package, and we club certain classes or rather Java programs under that package basically, right? Just to have a structured way of programming, right? So let me try to move them here. So if you see, I have moved those programs to a basic package. Now, if the package is empty, it will have a silver color, and whenever you write a single program in a package, the color becomes like this. Okay, it's yellow. Okay. Now, of course, if I want to, if I go to the file explorer, so how do I go to the location of this particular project? So just right click on this project, go to properties, okay, and here you would see the location of my project, right? So just copy this location and open any file explorer, okay, like this, and let me save it over here. Sorry, let me go to this package. Now, if you see under source, I created a package with the name called as basics, right? And under that basics, I have these two programs, right? So guys, don't worry, this icon for this program, this is coming just because on my machine I do have IntelliJ as well. It's another IDE used for Java programming. So even if you don't see these two icons over here, that's fine, okay? So don't worry. Now at the same time, guys, if I go to bin, so you would notice the similar package will also be created over here, right? Now the reason they are not getting created here is very simple, because I created package later on. So let me close, delete this one, and let me try to build this project. Just a second. Okay, I'll just say build project. And do you see under bin also the basics is package is getting created, and under this basics folder you would see dot class files, correct? Yeah, so let me check this setting, right? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now guys, so let me create another class. Okay, I will create with print ln versus print. Okay, now the names of the programs I'm giving a little strange, just this is just for your understanding. Okay, so now let's understand what is the difference between print versus print ln. Okay, now if you see here, guys, this is a class, right? Don't worry what is class, what is package, we're going to come across these things in detail, right? Now in any program, wherever you see these colored words, okay, in purple color, those are known as reserved keywords of Java. Okay, Java, right? Java has around 51 reserved keywords. So any language will typically have the reserved keywords, right? Because their meaning is reserved for a specific purpose, right? That's what is reserved keyword. So Java has around 51 reserved keywords, right? Keep this in mind. Now, whenever I want to execute any program, what it should have basically, it should always have a main method basically, right? Why? Because your JVM, we discussed that, right? So Java says a compiler and JVM actually executes your bytecode, right? So whenever you want to execute any program, Java program, it has to have a main method, right? So it's like public static void main string args like this. So this is the main method where your JVM comes first here, right? Now, in case if you don't remember the syntax, because of course we're gonna write down hundreds of programs in the upcoming sessions, right? So of course you would understand what is this public static void mean, right? But in case if you want to write down this very quickly, there's a shortcut to write this. Just write down main, okay, and just say control space. Okay, see, so id is a tool, so it's recommending or it's giving you suggestions. Are you looking for a main method? So just click here, and if you notice here, the main method has automatically come here, right? So what shortcut I have used here? Control space, right? And so I wrote down a word main and then control space, right? So guys, this is a very important shortcut we're gonna use across all the programs in the upcoming session. Okay, right. Now, let me write down a simple command. Again, let's say I want to print something on a console. So I'm gonna write SYSO. Again, is a shortcut and just say control space and select this one. See, so this is giving me a line to print something on a console, right? System.out.println, and I'll just say here, let's say line 1. This is my line 1, correct? And if I execute this, as I said, you can click on this icon or you can right click on this program and just say run as a Java application as well. Okay, so let me do that. So if you see, this system out println is a command in Java to print something on a console basically, right? Do you see, this is my line 1, right? Now if I do this another time, so of course one more line will be printed on the next line basically, right? Like this. So whenever you use system out println, this this message, which is in double quotes, gets printed on a console and cursor moves to the next line. This is very important. Okay, so if you see, after line 1, cursor has moved here and then this line got printed, right? So if I add one more line, so of course after line 2 the cursor will move to next line and line 3 will get printed, right? So if you see here, so this is just a pop-up for save and launch. Okay, so because I've done these changes in the program, so it's just asking me to save the program. Okay, now similarly guys, you also have something called as, just a second, println. So you also have something called as print, right? Now same thing again, I want to write down. So again I will say SYSO. This is a shortcut, and just say control space like this, and I will say here this is first line with print, right? Then let's write down like this. This is the first, this is the second, and this is the third basically, right? Now there are two commands, one is print and the other one is print, just print. Okay, so what is a difference between println versus print? There's a very basic thing guys. Okay, nobody very rarely somebody will ask you this in an interview, but in the upcoming programs, of course, we're gonna use this on frequently basis, right? So if you see after println, the cursor moves to next line, but if you see here, whenever you use print, the cursor doesn't move to next line. So once this line is printed, the next line will be immediately printed on the same line, right? So let me just put a star here so that you'll realize that. Okay, just a second, like this. And let's execute this, right? So did you notice after println, whenever we executed print, all the lines got executed on the same line itself, so the cursor is not moved to a next line basically. All right, understood the difference between println and print, right? Now let's move on. So let's create another class, and now guys I'm gonna, let's say, show you what is concate, right? Now, so I'm giving the, as I mentioned, I'm giving the class name little meaningful so that you can understand them straight away, right? And just say finish, right? Now what is the first thing which we're gonna do here? We're gonna write down a main method. As I discussed, every program should have a main method, okay, in order to execute it. So I'm gonna just say, what is the shortcut, guys? So it's main, and just say control space, right, like this, right? So you have a class, you have a main method, right? Now before even we learn concate, how do you provide comments in Java, right? We have already uh, used that in print program, but let me take it separately. So double forward slash, when you just put double forward slash, and let's say this is the example for concate, right? So if you see, whenever you use double quote, your compiler will simply ignore this line because this is a comment in your program, right? Right. Now at times you might want to give comments in a block, right? You want to write down multiple lines of the comment, right? So of course you will not just keep doing like this, right? This is not an efficient way of writing a comment. So to do that, okay, you can also write down something called as this, the single forward slash star, and just say enter. So this is nothing but a block of comment. You can write down anywhere, right? For example here, or if you feel you want to write down it over here, doesn't matter, right? Your compiler will simply ignore these lines, okay? So this is a way how do you write down a comment in Java, right? Doesn't matter, you can write down it anywhere, right? Okay, just a second. Okay, now what do you mean by concate in Java basically, right? Concate is basically you want to append, let's say I have something called as string str1 equals to, let's say, first name, let's say Virat, like this, okay? I have another string, let's say str2, okay? And let's say it is like this, okay? Now let's say I want to concate these two words. I want to append these two words and print in one line. Okay. So how to do that? Of course, we need the concate operator here to concate these two values basically, right? So again, I want to print it on console. So what should I use? I should use sysout. Okay, like this. Just say control space. For example, I'm writing syso control space like this, okay? Now I will just say here str1 plus str2 basically. I want to concate these two words and print them together. So plus is a, again I'm using a command, guys, if you see. So plus is concate operator in Java, right? So to concate two words basically, right? So if I now print this, you'll notice here, see, Virat Kohli is printed together using a concate operator called as plus basically, right? Now, of course, I want a space in between. So again, I'm going to do a plus and I will just add another string to it called a space here, right? So Virat, so at runtime your JVM will evaluate str1 to Virat, then hard coded space in between and then Kohli basically, right? So I'm trying to concrete three words here, right? So if you now print here like this, Virat Kohli, or there's another way, for example, I'm gonna say here, let's say Indian cricket team captain is like this. Okay, so for example, this is a fixed string. I'm concatenating this with this str1. Again, I'm giving a space and I'm giving a str2. Let's say again I want to have a dot here, so again I will say something called as dot. So if you see, plus is a concate operator. This is very useful, guys, from a Selenium or Java programming perspective. Okay, every language will have a concate operator, so Java does have, right? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so if you see, guys, now, okay, I have written four programs, right? So I will now, okay, I will also write down them in a specific order so that whenever you go through this videos or whenever you refer to my code base, okay, you should see all these programs in a specific way basically, right? So henceforth I will name it alphabetically. Let me show that. Okay, so for example, new class. Now, guys, okay, let's try and understand what do you mean by data types in Java, right? So if you see, I'm gonna create, and now we are learning a new topic, so I'm gonna create a new package, new, let's say package, and I'll say b underscore data types. So I'm just giving b underscore because it should come second in the list, right? So b underscore data types like this. Okay, and I will give this, I'll just rename using, you can just right click and just say refactor, rename, and I'll just say here, just a second, I'll just say here a underscore basic, so it should come up, right? It should come first like this. Okay, now if you see, b underscore data types is an empty package, right? It doesn't have any programs, any Java programs in it. That's the reason the color is white and this one is yellow, right? Now let's learn what do you mean by data types. Okay, so let me create a class with example primitive data types example one. Okay, so I'm just giving a class name for a concept whatever we are learning. Okay, and guys, as I said, you can also write down a main method by just clicking this or just say finish. Okay, and just come here and just say main control space. I hope you must have understood by this time that what is the purpose of main method. So JVM always looks for a main method as an entry point of location in your program, and from this line number 5, it starts executing the program basically, right? Understood? All right, now before we try and understand data types, write down programs in data, let me explain data types first. All right, okay, so Java, guys, has two types of data type. Okay, one is known as primitive and other one is known as non-primitive. Okay, now what is a difference between a primitive versus non-primitive data type? Okay, first of all, if somebody asks you in an interview, that is, again, it's a very basic question, but you never know what kind of question you might come across. What is a data type and why do we need it? Okay, so of course, in any programming language, we come across a lot of data, right? The data could be integer, or rather, I would say numeric, okay, or it could come in decimal format, right? It could be a very huge number, or it could be a character, or it could be a string, right? So while processing, while running any program, while writing any logic, we come across different data types, right? Now in order to process this data type in an effective way, every language has its data types basically, right? So so same goes with Java has data types, right? Called as primitive, right? And the second one is non-primitive, right? Now what do you mean by primitive? So data types which are provided, okay, data types which are provided by all the languages, okay, are also provided by Java, right? So that's the reason they are called as primitive data types. So data types which are provided by all the languages, hence Java also provide them, are known as primitive data types, right? For example, if I try to name primitive data types, let's say I have byte, then I have short, then I have, let's say, integer, long, float, double, char, and boolean. These are the different primitive data types which are available in the Java basically, right? Now the first byte, short, integer, long, float, and double, guys, they fall under a category called as numeric, right? Now of course somebody might think why we have so many subcategories in numeric as well, right? The answer is very simple. In numeric also you have various variation, right? You might come across a small number, you might come across a mid-range number, or a very large number, or a very big number, right? And in decimal also you might come across a very small decimal number or a big decimal number, right? So that's the reason, to have the effective memory utilizations, they have even divided this numeric into subnumerics, right? For example, byte, short, integer, long, and double, character, and boolean, right? Now each has certain memory consumption. For example, byte has, let's say, 1 byte of memory consumption. Short has 2 byte of memory consumption. Int has 4 byte memory consumption. Long has 8 byte memory consumption. Float has again 4 byte memory consumption. This has again 8 byte memory consumption, like that. Okay. So this is the memory consumption for all the data types. I'm gonna share you an Excel sheet wherein all these details have been mentioned, right? Now this, when you say byte is 1 byte, of course then there must be a range which it can hold, right? For example, it can hold from -129 to +129. If you try to hold a number which is outside this range in a byte data type, it will complain, right? Similarly, guys, this short also has some range, right? Of course, I don't remember ranges for all the data types. Okay, as I said, I'm going to give you an Excel sheet which talks about different data types and its ranges basically, right? So I hope you have understood, right? What do you mean by primitive data type? So these data types are provided by all the languages, right? Hence Java is calling them as primitive data type. This is a must to have data type for any language, right? Now, whereas non-primitive data types are the ones which are created by programmers. For example, Java wanted to have some specific data type, so their programmers created a data type for them. Okay, so these are customized data types. Okay, or these are specific to Java, right? Or you can also call these are created by Java programmers for their own, right? If I take an example of any one primitive, so string is a primitive data type, guys, non-primitive data type. Then you have, let's say, object is also a non-primitive data type. Okay, we're gonna come across a lot of examples of non-primitive data types in the upcoming sessions. Okay, right? So what are two data types in Java? Primitive versus non-primitive. Primitive are the ones which are provided by all the programming languages, whereas non-primitive are the customized ones and are specific to Java. Okay, now let's try and write some examples on these data type, right? So let me go here. Okay, and let's say, so again I will say comment example. Okay, for example, I want to declare byte, so I'll say byte. Okay, so again, if you see byte is coming in a purple color, so it's a reserved keyword. So I'll just say byte, let's say b1. Okay, and let me save it at 15 like this. Okay, now I'm holding a 15 value in this b1 variable of type what? Byte. Basically, how do you read it? B1 is a byte data type. Okay, now let's say, so now if you see here, it says a yellow underscore here. It's a warning, guys. Whenever you declare a variable but if you don't use it, your editor will show you a warning like this. Do you see? It says that the value of local variable b1 is not used, basically, right? Now let's club the concept what we have learned just now. So I want to print this value on a console, basically. So how do I print that? Very simple. I can go for a sys out like this and just say here value of b1 is, so if you see, I'm using concate here because this is a fixed string and I'm just concatenating that with b1, basically. So if I execute this, it says value of b1 is 15, basically. Understood? Similarly, guys, you have byte, then you have short. Okay, s1 equals to maybe 200 like this. Then you have integer. Okay, like this. Okay, maybe some bigger number. Then you have something called as uh, long, some big number like this. Okay, then you have a float. Let's say f1 equals, let's say 3.44f, like this. So floats are denoted by something like this. Okay, 3.4 and f. Okay, then you have double. Let's say d1 equals to, I'm gonna say the car value is like this. This is the double, right? Then you have char. Let's say c1 equals to male or female, let's say. So character is always represented in single quote, guys. Keep this in mind. Okay, and it should be a single character. Okay, then you have something called as boolean, basically, right? Like this. And let's say I'm going to say true or false, like this. So boolean always have a value either true or false, basically, right? Like this. Okay, so these are all primitive data types, guys. Okay, of course we're gonna use them quite frequently. Just a second, what is the error? Okay, it's a duplicate variable, so let me write down bln1 like this. Okay, fair enough. Primitive data types. Okay, now let's create another example for non-primitive data type, right? Like this. Again, guys, what should be there within a class? We should have a main method. So just say main control space. It's gonna suggest you what you're looking for. So I'm looking for a main method like this. Okay, now if I want to put a comment, so how do I put a comment? Double forward slash, I'll just say non-primitive example. Okay, how do I put a block of command over here? Anywhere you can put. Okay, just say single forward slash star and just keep hitting enter. Okay, like this. You can decide how big block of comment you want. Okay, like this. Okay, now so as I said, if I want to declare any non-primitive data type, so a very simple example is string str1 equals to hello, how are you, right? So string is a non-primitive data type in Java. Okay, why it is called as non-primitive, what makes it is different from a primitive data, that you will understand over a period of time, okay, not now. So to maybe to quickly explain you, so if you see str1 dot, so if you see these are different methods of a Java you can use on the string, okay. So this is a customized data type. You will not see this on an integer, okay, because integer is a primitive data type, right? Like this. You can also say, let's say I have an array, okay, for example array nums equals to new of, let's say, integer 5. This is an array. Again, this is a non-primitive data type which is specific to Java, right? Okay, I hope you have understood difference between primitive versus non-primitive, right? Okay, now let's move on. Now let's try and understand what do you mean by arrays in Java. Again, so I'm going to create a package with the name C underscore arrays basically, right? Now, first of all, what is a need of an array? Okay, so let's say I have a, I'm going to create a program. Let's say array, let's say example 1. Okay, it should have a main method. So just write down main, just say control space like this. Okay, now let's say I want to hold 10 employee numbers and I want to print their employee IDs basically. Let's say this is a problem statement I have. So of course, if I just keep creating employee 1 equals to 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, then I have, let's say, integer employee 2 equals to like this, okay. Then I have integer emp 3 equals to like, sorry, my bad, okay. There should not be a double quote for integer, sorry, okay, like this, okay. So of course, if I have 1,000 employees to be, if I want to hold 1,000 employees, I cannot of course create 1,000 variables, right? That's a very inefficient way of programming. So to avoid that, guys, we go for something called as array. So array is nothing but it's a data structure, okay. For example, let me show you. For example, let's say I want to hold 5 employee IDs, okay, 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay, like this. So array is a data structure, guys, okay, and array always starts with the index something called as 0, right? So this is 0, then you have, this is 1, okay, then this is 2, okay, this is 3 and this is 4 basically, like this, okay. So array has a specific size. So what is the size of array here, over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is the size of this array. However, it starts from index 0, so that's the reason you will see it is from 0 to 4 basically, right? Now if you say, if I want to hold employee numbers, I would straight away hold it in this array. For example, the first employee is 1816, okay. Second employee ID is maybe 242, like this, okay. Then I have a third employee like this, okay, some number of course, like this, okay. Then I have another array like this, okay, like this, okay. So if you see, in a single array I'm holding all the employee IDs basically, right? Rather than initializing, rather than declaring all different variables, I'm holding them in a single array basically, right? So that's the benefit of an array, right? So of course array should have a data type, right? For example, this array contains data of integer, so this array becomes an integer array. Similarly, if it contains decimal numbers, so array will be of decimal, right? It will be of double. Similarly, you can also have an array of boolean, array of character, and so on and so forth, right? So right, so let me, so we don't need like this. So first of all, we should know how do you declare an array. Let's say I want to hold employee numbers, so I should create an integer array. So just say int square bracket, let's say employee numbers, this is the name of the array, the way we used to give name to our variables, equal to new, just say integer, and in the on the right hand side guys, in the double square bracket, you have to give the size of this array, right? So let's say I want to hold 5 employee numbers, so I'll just say 5 is my size basically. Okay, so I'm creating a employee numbers array of type integer having size 5 basically, right? Now we have declared the array of size 5. Now the next thing is, how do you populate it, right? Of course we have to populate it, right? Even before you populate it, how do I print the size of this array, also known as length, right? So just take the name of this array. Okay, now guys, remember, as I said, Eclipse is the IDE. You don't have to write entire thing all the time, so just write down emp. Okay, just say control space. So your id will give you suggestions that what you are looking for. Are you looking for this variable array name? So just say yes, just click on this, right? And now I want to find out the length, so I'll just say dot, sorry, I'll say dot length. So dot length is the method on your array basically, and I want to print this on a console, so I'll just take this within the sys out basically, right? Understood? Now if I execute this, so if you notice, it's giving me the size of this particular array, which is 5 basically. Now let me concate this. Size of, let's say, employee nums array is like this. So, and what should be the concate operator? Plus is a concate operator. Now if I execute this program, see, you will get some meaningful output. Size of this employee numbers array is 5 basically, right? Now of course, so as I showed in this image, I've created a 5 size array, but of course there is no data in it. I have not populated this array, right? So how do you populate? So it's very simple. Just take the name of this array. Now I want to populate element at 0th location, so just specify 0 in square bracket and just say the first employee is 1816. Similarly guys, you want to populate first, so just say first, and let's say I'm gonna say here like this 3836, like this. So 0 1 2 3 and 4, like this. Okay, so let me change the index, so second, third and fourth, like this. Okay, and I'll just keep changing the numbers here, so 999 or maybe 888, some number. Okay, I'm just giving some number, let's say 1 2 3 4, like this. So now if you see here, so I have declared the array guys. Okay, here I have declared the array first of type integer, then I'm printing its length, and then I'm trying to populate it basically, right? Since the array is of size 5, and if I try to put some extra element, for example the sixth element, then of course it will complain, right? Because this array is of size 5 and you're trying to insert an element at sixth position, right? Which is something wrong, right? Now, so if I execute this, so you would notice the size is 5 and it has populated the array as well, right? Now you know how to populate. So how do I print certain element of the array? Print, let's say, specific element of array, right? So let's say I want to print this particular third index element, right, on a console. So to print something on a console, what do we use? We use sys out. Just say sys out and just put this, like, put this array name and index over here, right? So, and just to have a meaningful output, I'll say value of third index element is like this. Okay, fair enough, like this. Okay, so if I print this, see, it says the value as 8886, right, which is the third index value, right? Understood? Now guys, the way I have created an integer array, I can also create a string array, right? If I create a string array, so I can also create a string array as well, right? So let me create string. square bracket, okay, then let's say employee names, and let me create new, okay, string, and let's say I want to hold three employee names, so string array like this, okay. Now how, what will be the size here? 3. How do I print a size? So I can just simply say sys out, just say size of employee names array is like this, okay, and I'm going to simply say here dot length, basically like this, okay. So if I execute this program, see, you should see the size is 3, right? Now I want to populate, of course, so of course I will simply take the names like this. Let's say the zeroth element of this is, let's say, Amit. It's a string, so I'm just giving it in double quotes. Then let's say I have a first, let's say Rakesh, okay. Then I have something called as, let's say, Virat, like this, okay. This is how I have populated it, correct? Now, at times, guys, okay, at times you might want to, without, so see, I have declared the array and then I'm populating this at times you might feel this is boring task, right? So you can also create an array by explicitly specifying its element. Let's say array example, let's say 2, right? So for example, again I'll have a main method over here. Let's say, guys, I want to create employee IDs ka array, right? So I will simply say here something called as integer, because the data type is integer. I'll say employee IDs, and I can, guys, simply assign something called as this as well, okay. For example, the employee ID has 67, then 98, then something like this, okay, like this. So this is a direct way of declaring an array with its elements, basically, right? So now if I try to print the size of this array, okay, I'm going to simply say here length, okay, and I will make it meaningful by concatenating with some hard-coded text. Size of employee IDs array is like this, okay, and I'll use a plus concat operator, right? And if I execute this, okay, see, the size is 6 because 0 1 2 3 4 5. So since it starts with 0, so the size is 6, basically. So this is another way of declaring an array, declaring array with its element, correct? Understood? You might see at times, okay, you might see some different declarations, but don't worry, there are different ways of declaring an array. I have taken two over here, right? Now if you see, guys, this data is of type integer, so that's the reason we declared this as an integer array, right? Similarly, guys, if you see the main method, can you tell me what is this basically? So your main is a method which has an argument over here, okay. So main takes an argument as this args, which is of type string array, basically, right? We'll come across this in detail, okay, when we'll learn what is main method, what is static, non-static. We'll come across this, okay, but just keep this in mind. This args is nothing but a arguments array of type string, basically. This is the name of the array, args, basically, right? Okay, fair enough. Now let's say at times you might come across a requirement wherein you want to store data of multiple data types in a single array. For example, I want to create an array which holds, let's say, employee number, employee name, employee years of experience, and gender. Okay, for example, I want to have an array which holds, let's say, okay, which holds integer, which holds, let's say, double, or maybe string, and let's say character. So how do I create an array which holds data of all data types? So in that case, guys, we go for something called as an object array, basically, right? So let's say I'm going to say here employee details like this, and I will simply say here, now I will straight away create it, okay, rather than assigning it at 0 to 1 2 3 4th location. I would straight away assign the values. So let's say I want to have employee details. So let's say, so the employee number is 18, and let's say the name is Amit. Let's say this some salary like this, okay, and maybe the it's a male employee like this. Okay, so did you notice, now this is an array which is holding data of all data types. That's the reason we call it as a object array. Okay, so of course object is a is a super class in Java, right? It's a parent of all the classes. We'll learn that in ops concept. Okay, but since we are learning arrays, so I just thought of covering over here. So if somebody asks, let's say, how do you create array which holds data type of all data types, right? For example, integer, double, string, character. So in that case, guys, you have to create an object array. If I want to print a size, or if I want to print the, let's say, the name over here, so of course I have to say here sys out, okay, take the name of the employee like this and just specify the index. So what is the index where the name is lying? Is 1 basically, right? So I'll just say here name of the employee pl1 is, let's say, like this. Okay, I have to write the concat operator like this. Okay, and if you execute this, see, the name of the employee is Amit, right? Okay, right. Okay, so I hope, guys, this I hope you have understood the arrays and its uses. Okay, right. Okay, now the way you have single dimensional array, similarly you can also create a two-dimensional array as well. Okay, for example, let me create a two-dimensional array. For example, I create a two-dimensional array like this. Just a second. So this is a square like this. Okay, I'm just trying to show this pictorially first. So like this. Okay, so at times you might come across a requirement wherein you want to hold the data of 4 employees basically, right? So how do you hold that basically, guys? Okay, so of course you have to go for a two-dimensional array, right? For example, let's say this is the dimensions, right? So I'll just write down this is 0 row, then I have, let's say, the first row, then the second row, then the third row like this. Okay, these are the dimensions, right? 4 rows, and it has basically 4 columns basically, right? So I have 0, then 1, sorry, not 4, sorry, 3 columns, right? So if you see, this is a 4 by 3 array, right? Just a second. uh, okay, so if you see, I'm trying to create a array which holds 4 employees data, and so it is having 4 rows and 3 columns basically. Okay, so how do you declare a two-dimensional array? So let me create another example, new, let's say, class array, let's say, two dimension. Okay, let's say like this. Okay, now it should have a main method, guys. So I'll just quickly write down, let's say, main control space like this. So my program is ready. Okay, now how do you declare an array? So now, since the diagram which I showed you, of course this is the employees data, so it should have all data types, right? So I'm going to create an object array of 2 dimensions, so 2 square brackets, right? Let's say employee details like this. Okay, let's say I'm going to say here, let's say, TCS employee details like this. Okay, and I'll say new object like this is how two-dimensional array is declared. Now I want to hold 4 employees and 3 columns. Okay, so 4 comma 3 basically like this. Okay, how we used to declare single dimensional array? Integer, let's say, nums like this, nums equals to new of integer 5 like this. This was single dimensional, correct? Okay, whereas this is what, guys, this is a two-dimensional, right? Got it? Right. So two-dimensional array again can be of integer or it can be a double. Data types depends what type of data you want to hold in that array. Depending on that, you have to decide the type, the data type, right? So how do I populate here? So if you see here, let's say I want to populate this particular element. So this is zeroth row, zeroth column, right? So all I have to see here TCS, let's say zeroth row, zeroth column. Okay, and the value is, let's say this is employee number 1816, like this. Okay, then let's say I want to populate this particular value. So this is zeroth row, first column. So I will just say here zeroth row and first column, like this. Okay, and let's say the name is Amit, basically, right? I'll make it short. Okay, 4 comma 2, so that we don't have to populate data. Okay, and 2 comma 2, like this, 2 comma 2 array. Okay, so this is Amit, right? Double quote is missing over here. Okay, just a second. Then so the first row is done. Second row I want to do. So let's say now it is first row, zeroth column, first row, first column. Let's say this is the employee ID. Okay, and the name is, let's say, Virat, like this. So this is how, guys, I have created a two-dimensional array over here, right? Understood? Zeroth row value, zeroth row, zeroth column, zeroth row, first column, first row, zeroth column, like that. Okay, now in this case, how do you print the size over here? Now there are two sizes, right? The row size is different and the column size is different. So how do you print that? Okay, so for example, what is the error? First of all, just a second, let me save this. Yeah, so how do you print the size here? Okay, so for example, if I want to know the rows, so I'm going to simply say here, take the name of the array dot length, basically. Okay, as we discussed, length gives you the length of the array, right? And just say here sys out, like this. Okay, now by default this always gives the length, the row length, basically, right? Right, so if I execute this, what is the row length? I'm having a 2 as the row length, right? Now for a given row, what is the column length, right? So if you want to do that, just sys out, and I want to print, let's say, column length for the first row. So all you have to do is just take the name of that array, select the first row using 0, and then, guys, you say length, like that. So this is the column length of 0th row. Okay, and if I do like this, if I print, so it should show me 2 second, right? This is the length of the first 0th row, like that. Now how do you print specific element of this array? Yes, so it's again sys out, because I want to print it on a console. So take the name of the array. Okay, let's say I want to print this value, maybe this value, right? So which is 0th row, first column, right? So I'm going to simply say here 0th row and the first column, right? And the value should be Amit, right? This is the value, right? So let me say 0th row, first column, like this. Okay, I'm trying to concate this, and let me re-execute this, right? Understood what is two-dimensional array, what is a single dimensional array? Okay, we will come across, see, whatever concept we are learning in each module, we will come across this concept in the upcoming modules. All the modules, they are interrelated, right? Okay, all right, guys, so thanks for watching this video. So in the next video, okay, we're gonna learn what do you mean by operators in Java, and what are statements, what are loops. Okay, so yeah, thank you.